Me?
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, excellent, Joe. Joe, so here's the question. We need to think about this. How should Christians think about home safety or personal safety, personal protection, especially in a world like today, in a world that is unstable? How should Christians think about safety?
Okay. Safety is mostly connected with a mindset. Everybody's looking for a thing to prepare for their safety. I'm not saying these are bad things.
Mhm.
Buy burglar alarms for your home. Buy gadgets that'll keep us safe, installing lights and all that. But usually, violent incidents follow the path of least resistance, and that means that because it may be inconvenient to train enough, it may be inconvenient to take the lighted pathway rather than the dark shortcut. Most violent incidents, and this is a tough pill to swallow, right? Because it sounds like you're kind of blaming the victim, but that's not really the case. But most violent incidents are preceded by some act on the part of the victim that could have been avoided, and that's
Mhm.
just the reality of it.
Interesting. And we
Now,
as Christians can definitely be in that, right, in that area
yeah,
and
everybody can,
operate.
absolutely. So, you know, um, people can buy guns and carry them, and I'm not going to get into a debate of whether we should do that or not. I've been carrying a gun professionally for 40 years in one capacity or another. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on what job I'm doing. Um, so I'm very familiar with firearms and their purposes and uses. But there's a couple of things that people need to think about. You know, the age-old debate, it goes all the way back as long as there's been the New Testament. Um, Opinions from Calvin forward on why did Jesus tell the disciples to buy swords, and then the first opportunity to use them, he told them, "He who lives by the sword will die by the sword." So that answers, you're not getting an answer for me today. But what you are going to get are an understanding that decision making is really what provides your safety, whether you're armed or not. And I'll give you an example of that. A nurse that I trained in an emergency room, I trained the entire emergency room staff, and she got off the late shift. Now, this is an emergency room nurse that worked in a tough urban hospital, right? Gunshots were nothing new to her. Life and death decisions were nothing new to her. Terror, fear, pain, crisis was a nightly affair for her. She had an incident once a week that most people would consider life-changing. So that's the kind of career she had. So as she got off at midnight, she decided, well, I need to stop at the grocery store to get some things, because I've been working long hours and I haven't had a time to go shopping or anything. So she found a 24-hour grocery store, and when she pulled in the parking lot, she noticed a car kind of circling the lot a little bit. And she said to herself, well, that seems kind of strange, but kind of dismissed it. And then she had a new car, so she parked it in the parking lot, and she parked it off in kind of an isolated area because she didn't want to get any door dings, right? And then as she got out, she's on her cell phone talking to her friends at work. Imagine she just had a 16-hour shift and she's talking to her friends at work, so her mind never really shut off. So she's walking along with her cell phone. Most people think that these cell phones keep us safer, but actually the way we're using them now, they make us less safe. So she talked on that phone and she went into the store and she grabbed a cart and she started, going down the aisles. There weren't many people there. And she had a experience that most women have had. She saw a creepy man staring at her, right? It's happened before. She kind of dismissed it, just some creepy guy. And then she's going down the aisles and she noticed a creepy man showing up again, kind of giving her the side eye thing, you know? And she felt her hackles go up a little bit, but she goes, just a creepy guy. And then she would go down a couple aisles to try and lose him. And then he would show up again at the end of the aisle and act like he's, looking at stuff, on the shelf. But she noticed he didn't have a cart and he's not buying anything, right? So then she started to worry a little bit. So she ran around the store and did her shopping, and she noticed he disappeared. And then she did a very interesting thing. She started looking for him. She wanted to make sure that he was gone. So she ran around the store, made sure he was gone, looked like he was gone. So she got in in the aisle to check out, and there was one person in front of them. There's only one cashier, and she's waiting, and she's thinking, you know, the little hairs are sticking up on the back of my neck. And people who do her kind of work, the little hairs don't work so well. We kind of dismiss them a lot because you have to like survive the night. So she remembers me telling her to trust those little hairs again because they have meaning, right? So as she's checking out, she's thinking, I have to ask for help. And she felt this profound sense of embarrassment. You know, here I do this job, but I feel like a big baby and I'm going to ask somebody for help. But she swallowed her pride. That's another very interesting thing. If someone came to you and asked for help, you wouldn't dismiss them as a big baby. So we tend to be harder on ourselves than we are others. So when she gets up there, she says to the cashier, she said, I'm probably just being a big baby, but some creepy man was staring at me. Can someone watch me go to my car? Well, of course, the cashier said, yeah, we'll get the man. You know, I'll take a trained woman over an inexperienced man any day. But, you know, that was okay. Their instinct was to get the man. There was an assistant manager on duty. And, of course, he had the Batman fantasy, so he put his jacket on and said, I'll help you out, little lady. You know, and he's walking her out to her car, and he's kind of yakking, and she's paying attention. She's trying to be aware of her surroundings like she was trained, and he's yakking. And she didn't walk directly to her car. She walked around it in the parking lot, kind of at an angle. So she was far away from her car, but she could see around it, right? And when she started to approach her car, she noticed that car that was circling the parking lot was right next to hers. And then from 100 feet away or so, she could see between the cars and saw the creepy man crouching down between them. Now, see, that decision for her to trust her instincts and ask for help saved her life that night. There's no doubt about it. A life or something very terrible happening to her because he wasn't there for any good reason, right? So she could have had a gun and not been aware and been on her cell phone. Would that have saved her life? It's good decision making that keeps us safe. It's not toys and gadgets, okay? So there's three things that people need to be aware of if they're really concerned about their safety. Is they have to be aware of their surroundings. And they go to their car, look around, look under it, walk around it, kick the tires, and look around the neighborhood to see what's going on. When you go somewhere to park somewhere safe, right, where you can see the entrance, you can see around you, you can see what's going on around you. When you have your cell phone, don't yak on it, right, and text on it even worse, right? If you're worried about your safety, call your husband, call your wife, call a friend, and say, I'm going into the store, and just hold it to your side while you're walking in the store. That way if something happens, and you've already told them your address, where you are, so you can say, I need help now, right? And then the perpetrator also sees you doing that, and that takes away a layer of safety. The other thing is to trust your instincts. For most people who have a healthy, mental health, a healthy emotional state, those instincts are very reliable. If it feels wrong, it probably is wrong, so do something else, right? And the last one is ask for help. And when we're talking about our Christian, example to other people, asking for help, most people are going to provide that help at some level or another, right? In smart situations, I mean, just call the police, or can you watch me as I go, or pointing out an unsafe situation, ways that we build relationships with people, and see to our safety and theirs, and give us an opportunity to witness at that point.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Joel. Yeah, I mean, invaluable. And friends, this is what we do as Christians. We ought to care for one another. And sometimes it's these practical things that we do. And let's remember that those little hairs on the back of the head, sometimes the Holy Spirit works in mysterious ways, and you'll have a sense, and pay attention to that paying attention of the surroundings. It's so critical. It's such a skill that you use not only for safety, but for prayer. Some time back, we actually talked about prayer walks, and we actually recorded that Living Faith video. It's up on our YouTube, and if you haven't yet subscribed to that, make sure you do that. But we've actually done that where we've looked around in our surroundings, and the Lord will bring something to mind to pray for. So being aware is absolutely critical. Thank you, Joel, for the practical tips. And now, Joel, if people wanted to know more about this, what should they do? Or if they want to dive into the conversation a little bit more, what would you recommend?
Well, depending on what question they have or what interest they have, they can always email me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I can give you my email
Yeah, maybe
address.
put it in the chat section. You can
Okay,
do that.
sure.
Send the email out so that way people know that they have a way to follow up with you, and it's something that you'd be willing to connect with them. Correct?
Absolutely. Our organization, I'm not the guy that does it, but we do a lot of training for worship, places of worship, security teams, and everything from armed response teams to just a little church like us,
Okay, fantastic.
depending on where they are and what they do.
Great, great. We'll make sure to put that information out there for you guys to connect. So, Joel, thank you. I so appreciate your perspective. Boy, there's a lot to consider regarding this important topic, and there's no shortage of differing opinions. So,
Yeah,
if you want to revisit this brief dialogue, by all means, all our Living Faith interviews are available on the YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to it, share with a friend that you think would be helpful for them to do so, and make sure you click on that church bell in the upper right-hand corner to be notified of new content that we have out there. And may the Lord keep you safe and bless you.